First of all, I would like to ask a couple questions of Mr. Skenedor. Great to have you here. When I was in the state senate, I represented Menominee County, and always a privilege to be able to work with the Menominee tribe. So Menominee Tribal Enterprise has been in business for a long time and producing wood for America. And what would forest management look on Menominee tribal lands if you didn't have that mill?
Thank you for the question. We would have a much more densely populated forest. We would have much older trees than we do. We would also have a lot more fuel on the forest floors. I believe our wildfire risk would have grown exponentially. So I like to say Menominee Tribal Enterprise is in the business of forest management, but as a result, we get logs to turn into boards. And so those decisions to thin the forest, to selectively harvest, to try and make the forest better, all really relate to the quality of the forest that we have right now, today.
How many tribal members have jobs currently at MTE?
We employ about 240 employees. We try really hard to have living wage jobs for all of them, but that includes sawmill employees, forestry employees, and it also includes our contractors who are out in the forest taking down trees.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the work you do, and MTE is always recognized as a fine mill that we have in northern Wisconsin amongst so many, and they're vital, aren't they, for us to be able to do proper forest management. Mr. Rigdon, I think you said something about, I'm not sure I caught it clearly, but that you had a lack of wood at a time. Could you explain that a little bit more? I didn't catch all of that.
So yes, during the last 10 years, due to the lack of forestry staff and filling positions within the Bureau of Indian Affairs, we've seen a significant decrease in the amount of timber sales that have been created for our active logging on the reservation. And so this last year, we actually received more wood from John Crockett and the Forest Service than we did from our own mill on the reservation, which is trust income that goes back into our community that supports many governmental programs and plays an important role into that. But the fact is that we're just not we don't have enough silviculturists and enough timber sale planners to implement what we need to support our facilities. And it becomes an important part because as you don't have as much wood, but your cost to run a mill stays the same, the amount of board feet plays a key role into making that economical. And you get to this place where it costs you more than what you have to cut, and that becomes problematic.
So you really need staff to be able to complete those projects. Is that correct? To be able to get the wood to your mills?
Yeah. Staffing plays a key role, and also the resources, and that's, it falls in line with the IFMAT report into what.
And I'm hearing a little bit about that. The regulatory side of it can be challenging at times also. Are you supportive of some NEPA changes that would make sense to be able to make it perhaps streamline the process to be able to get wood to the mills?
I think there's conversations to that. I am very proud of as we and most of the tribes, when we go into our conversation, it's within our internal community. We get feedback right away if our membership don't like it, and they tell us right away. And so some of that, it's some of the other things, the outside drivers when Endangered Species Act and these things play a role, that we aren't managing our forests for the benefit of our people. We're being dictated for spotted owl or for some other species that doesn't always have the same resource values. And we put our forests at risk on some of those things. And so that to me becomes one of our challenges.
Did we end up with better forest management as a result of the spotted owl scare?
Excuse me?
Did we end up with better forest management in the Pacific Northwest as a result of the spotted owl scare?
I want to say it this way. I think especially in the Northwest, we ended up and we put every acre into these different models that were not sustainable. And I really think when you look on the eastern side of the Cascades and fire-prone communities trying to maintain that type of habitat, it is actually a destructive thing that has helped entice and enhance the type of catastrophic fires that we've seen. I think there needs to be a conversation. I think you can silviculturally achieve some of the same goals and we need to do that to reduce the risk and the resilience of our forests to do that. And I think that plays a role. I think the model that we used isn't achieving the goals that we want. And you can see that through what's come out of the Northwest Forest Plan and the survivability of the spotted owl.
I want to ask just one other quick question. Mr. Desautels, there was a lawsuit filed by an environmental group to stop a forest management project. Could you tell us a little bit more about that lawsuit and the benefits that would have accrued to the tribe as a result of doing that project and the health of the tribe and the health of the forest?
So that project it had about 15 miles of adjacent boundary with the Cobble National Forest. The intention was to do a lot of forest health, forest restoration work, along with about 15,000 acres of prescribed burning. And really the issue that the litigant had was some roadside fuels treatments that we wanted to do that were directly adjacent to the reservation boundary because it's tough ground. And that was really one of our opportunities to stop a wildfire. And subsequently in 2021, we had a wildfire on the reservation side just south of that, and it burned 50,000 acres and at least a couple 100 million board feet of timber. So it did exactly what we were scared it would do. But because of the work that we did on the reservation, we thankfully held it on the reservation, didn't go on to the north half. But it was really driven by a very distinct recreational special interest. So it's unfortunate that it stopped all of that good potential natural resource work because of one particular group.
So you're saying that lawsuit cost thousands of acres of forest to be burned?
No, the fire started on the reservation side, but that potential still exists on the Forest Service side. Their forest health issues are worse than what we had on our side. So if we can burn 50,000 acres, they can definitely do that. And we would have lost the opportunity to do some work ahead of time that could have minimized the footprint of a future fire if we don't do that work now.
We've heard that many times here throughout the course of the last year. So I'd like to thank all the witnesses for your testimony and our members for their questions. We really appreciate that you would take the time and effort to come here to Washington, D.C. to share your thoughts